This is Perth's Elite Personal Trainers Podcast. Your host, Danny Marina, talks to some of Perth's best and most successful personal trainers in the city.
Welcome to brothers Dan and Paul Rucci, who are both powerlifters and strength coaches here in Perth. Guys, it's a warm welcome to PEPT. Thanks very much for coming on today as guests.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks for having us, mate. Yeah, thanks for having us.
I really appreciate it. So you've just opened up your third facility, V3, which is version 3. It's a world-class facility. Now, I know there's a bit of a backstory, and I think appropriately sort of tagged from the garage to the big time. And what I mean by the big time is this world training facility that you've got in Malaga and Perth. And there's a really intriguing story behind how this has all come about. And you know, I've followed you guys for the last probably, especially Dan, because I know Dan's the social media
Spammer.
CEO.
See, thanks for that. See, that I'm the CEO, mate.
So I've been following you, and I've seen this whole new sort of premises facility sort of unfold, and how it's all sort of come about, and it is just an amazing facility. So please take us through how it's all started from the garage to this mecca of a facility.
Sure, no worries. Well, look, obviously, to start with, thank you very much for your kind words. Paul and I don't really think of the gym as a world-class facility, although maybe it's because we're used to it. We see it every day. We've seen it go from the garage, and obviously has evolved over time. So I guess we're a little bit desensitized to it, obviously. I'll let Paul start, actually.
No worries. Pleasure. We actually did start in my garage. We found strength training. We started in a commercial gym, just like everyone else starts in a commercial gym. We figured that the things we wanted to do, they didn't really cater for what we needed. So I had room in my garage at the back, and we spent a few $1,000s. We bought a rack, some bumpers, a few bars, big ass kettlebell, and we started strength training in my garage. And over time, our friends, our family, they wanted to join us. And I suppose at one point, it was a bit of a turning point. I suppose we figured, well, why don't we just sort of open our own gym if all these people want to come and train with us? And I suppose that is when I also met Aaron Doyle, who was actually a joint partner in PTC when we first started. I met Aaron through Dan. And us three put our heads together, and we opened V1. Let's call it V1. It was also in Malaga, 174 square meters of bliss at the time. We thought. I suppose it still is, because it's where it all began, I suppose. And some of our very first members are still with us today. We started modest, and we just saved and worked our way into the next facility, which was also in Malaga. It was a few years after we opened V1.
Just take a little bit of a step back there. Paul and I didn't really start strength training until we were about 30. Before that, we had a history of soccer and more athletic types of sport. And I think at some point when we first started training, like everyone, we were searching the internet for programs and the things to do, and the right things and the wrong things, and what works, what doesn't, and all that kind of jazz. Paul came across a guy called Marcos, who he learnt from and read some of his online articles, which are still available. Marcos is actually the founder of PTC. He currently owns PTC headquarters in Melbourne, and so PTC itself isn't a franchise. They're all independently owned, and to open one, you obviously have to have the approval from Marcos, and you have to follow a certain paradigm, way of thinking, a way of doing things. Well done, Paul. A way of doing things that's stick to the culture and the brand that Marcos has created. And so Paul got to know Marcos a little bit, and I actually flew over one year to do some training in his garage. and to meet him and see what it was all about. Man, I think I squatted 140 kilos in his garage, and it was a PB. I can't remember, it was a while ago. And then sort of from that, just developed a relationship with him. So
Dan, is it a prerequisite with PTC? Everything's got to start in the garage.
look, I think if you look at Steve Jobs and Apple, he started in a garage. Obviously, not comparing myself to Steve Jobs, but as an example, look, no one starts with 1,000 square meters or $500,000 worth of equipment or whatever it is. Like, they just don't. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. I think everything naturally evolves and grows, and so basically what happened after that was, through consult with Marcos, Paul and I decided that, we wanted to open PTC Perth, so we went ahead and did that. Right, it's actually across the road, the first gym, so which is kind of special. Every time we leave the place, we drive past the gym. Ever since then, it's sort of been guns a ho, and just even ourselves, we continue to grow and learn. When we first opened PTC, both of us still work full time. I've got a computer science degree. Paul's got an engineering degree. Paul was still in his field. I had already been working for myself for over a decade in my own businesses, which Paul was also a part of. Paul and I have a history of running business. We've run a lot of .com businesses, for example. So I guess a lot of our business background comes from the mistakes and the learnings and the successes we've had from those businesses. And running business personally, for me personally, is one of the things I really love to do. So it was cool to mix my newfound passion for lifting weight or strength training or whatever you want to call it with running business. But so in version 174 square meters, we literally all put in like $12,500 each. We had a whole bunch of hand-me-down equipment. I remember when we first opened, someone came in and told us not to give up our day job. That's all in the past, obviously. So look, opening a gym, I'll be honest, is very, very tough. Unless you have some sort of niche or some sort of differentiating factor, you will just be a gym that is, based, you obviously get new clients based on price. So most people out there in terms of gyms, or especially commercial gyms, are price sensitive. That's why there's this price war, $8.99 a week, $10.99 a week, all that type of thing. Obviously, what we do, we don't even participate in that price war, so we're a little bit different. But so we were there for, how long were we V1 for?
About 2 years.
2 years. So we ran some comps there. At that point, Paul and I had already competed in a few comps. That year in 2012, I competed at the GBC World Championship as well, which actually I went really for the experience, which is a lot of fun. So we literally outgrew that place in a matter of a year or 18 months or something.
Probably about 18 months. People would walk, sort of hands, arms, and legs were out the door. This was jammed.
We got to the point across the road where people were waiting outside to come inside to use equipment. So quite naturally, we decided that we had to move. The move from V1 to V2 was actually quite a big jump, much bigger lease to take on, but it did give us the ability to, broaden some of the things that we were able to offer. So, for example, once I finished my remedials, I was able to offer our remedial service, our remedial treatments. We had some space to do some group stuff. So, and that's sort of when we started to look at running our own courses and educate people. And obviously the jump from V2 to V3 is another step, another evolution in that cycle, So V2 was, how long were we there for? I can't remember. Anyway, it was 450 square meters. We had 350 squares on the ground floor and 100 squares on the mezzanine. And the mezzanine initially was literally just office admin area until we, about a year in, Paul and I decided to become an official hammer strength training center as well. So we ordered a whole bunch of hammer strength equipment, and a lot of the hammer strength plate loaded machines lived upstairs, which were right next to our office and my treatment room. So it got a little bit ridiculous at the end. Paul and I literally sharing an office, literally banging heads. And the treatment room, I had a shoulder. There was a shoulder press, a hammer strength shoulder press, literally right next to the treatment room. So I'd have some of my boys doing heavy shoulder press. I'd be trying to treat someone, and it would be a little bit, but it is what it is. You just deal with it. This year, an opportunity came up to possibly move. we had there were a couple of options in terms of there were a couple of decisions to make. How big, where, do we move, or do we open a second gym? Paul and I started studying again this year, so we're both studying an exercise and sports science degree. So the option to open a second gym just would have added too much of an administrative overhead. So we decided to just go bigger and better, which, to be honest, I think that was the right move in the end, because we want a facility that is iconic in nature, that is well known, and that people want to train at. And not just because of the equipment or the size, but because of the things we do, the things we offer, the team of lifters that we have here, and the environment, Because I look, at the end of the day, you can have $1 million and open up a gym, but unless you have everything, the actual important stuff that goes with it, then it's going to be an empty gym, So, and I think we've all seen that in the past, when the gym opens with a huge budget and then they go belly up, So Paul and I believe much of our success here is really because of the really tight-knit community that we have. Some of our guys, especially the guys that have been with us from the beginning, Yanni, Ando, the two off the top of my head, and there's more, Darwin, even Linus, bless his soul. Those guys are very, very protective of PTC and of Paul and I, which is awesome. So they don't like when people talk shit about us, or just they're really defensive.
I think I saw a little bit of that on Facebook too.
Yeah, which look, it's obviously great, and it's not so great at the same time. But you got to take the good with the bad with anything. I'd rather have a tight community of people who support us than those that don't give a shit, and treat the gym and us like garbage. So in saying that, everyone at the gym is real awesome, and they wouldn't be here if they weren't. The type of culture that we have kind of weeds out the dickheads. And to be honest, we don't really get the types of people that we don't want here. They don't come here for whatever reason. I think it's the culture and a few other factors, but it's good. So V2, I guess we outgrew it in a point that Paul and I wanted to expand the types of things that we offered. We wanted to improve the way we dealt with clients, made our service to them more professional. We wanted to broaden the range of allied health services that we offer. So for us to be able to do that, we really needed a venue that catered for it. Like at the moment at V3, we have our own offices, which is great because we can get more work done. I've got my own treatment room, which doesn't have a shoulder press next to it, which is great. And we've got our office, or our pro shop here at the front, which is great because we were able to expand our merchandise range, and we're able to sell more gear. We want everything under one roof. We want a holistic facility that you come to, and everything you need is under one roof. Sure, I do have to refer on to physio sometimes because we don't have a physio in-house, but most of the things we can cater for. So, obviously I'm a remedial, and we have Adam, who's an exercise physiologist. So for any rehabilitation, clinical rehab work, we've got Adam here as well. And we do have a range of other staff as well now on board. So the bigger gym is pretty essential. So I guess the transition from V2 to V3 for us was just a stepping stone to where we wanted to be. I think V2, when I look back, while it was an awesome stepping stone or transition from V1 to V2, I think it really wasn't exactly where we wanted to be, if that makes sense. It was awesome, and look, we've got some really awesome memories of our dad in that gym, which is real hard to talk about. But I think he would be real stoked with how we've moved to the new place. And I remember when we were in the first gym, and the building that we're in used to be a company called Carboodle used to be in this building. They used to lease cars, and so basically where our current gym floor is, it was basically a car park. It was literally empty, just cars. I remember one day they had a sausage sizzle here, and Paul and I came over from across the road and had, and we walked inside and we looked around and we said to ourselves, imagine if this was PTC. And that was about 3 years ago. So to be in this building across the road from where that kind of all took place is pretty surreal. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Look, the new venue is honestly, if you would asked me 4 years ago, we would have been here. I would have said you're dreaming. Obviously, we have grand desires and things that we want to achieve, but sometimes it's real difficult to see that far ahead. And look, in saying that, who knows where we're going to be in another 4 years? So we might be having this same conversation in 4 years about V6.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? In saying that, though, I can see us being here for quite a while. But, look, the new venue is the usable area we've used is just under 1,000 square meters. So the main gym floor is 630. The outdoor area is 220, and so our outdoor area is actually bigger than our first gym, which is kind of cool. We have a mezzanine upstairs, which is 75 squares, which is mainly used for, it's a private area, semi-private, so it's not public access for our group classes, things like yoga. I'm about to open up our new PTC fight stuff. And there's a common area for our PTs and our staff as well. So, and that's where we'll be running all of our courses and seminars and workshops. And then the office admin area is 75. So yeah, so it's pretty sizable. The main gym floor is designed in such a way that it makes us it's easier and more efficient and a lot more professional in terms of running our events and competitions. So if you walk into the gym, you'll see all the trussing erected for the main platform and TVs hanging off it and all that kind of thing. There's still a few things to happen on that platform as well. But look, the new venue is honestly, I think it's turned out better than what we expected. And we've had some awesome feedback. So it's just been a bit of a ride, to be honest. Trying to study and trying to, operate here and still trying to grow and make things happen and events and courses and just managing staff and all those things all rolled into one is pretty intense. But look, man, Paul and I, I'll be honest, and I know you're going to ask us questions later about this, but in order to be, let's call it successful in what you're doing, you got to be able to grind. If you don't have the ability to grind and just look past the bullshit and not worry about what everyone else is doing, then you're going to find it real difficult to make something of it. You have to really, really believe in what you're doing, regardless of what other people think. That brings us to sort of V3. I know that you've taken some photos and stuff. Are you going to be using them in the?
Yeah, I will.
Cool. Look, at the moment, we're happy to, if people want to come in for tours. I know that some people just want to come in and have a look around. Paul and I basically book 15 or 30-minute tours of the place if you want to come and have a look. I know that some people want to come and have a look and they might be interested in training here, so we can discuss training options and coaching options as well. So we do a fair few of those. I know we did the walkthrough video as well, which had like 30,000 views. So we've had some good feedback from that. So look, people are going to see the photos in hopefully in this podcast, and there's the video online. But look, to be honest, I don't think the videos or the photos do it justice. So if people come in, all the better. And look, there's an opportunity to see the gym if you haven't at Perth Cup coming up in 3 or 4 weeks. So obviously we'll be set up for an event, so it won't be in operation mode, but you'll still get an idea of
close.
You'll still get an idea of the vastness, the size, and the sort of what we do. Have I covered everything? Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean that journey, that story was intriguing. It was awesome. Thanks, Dan.
I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes with it, but just we could.
I loved it, man. I loved it. Really did. Hey, listen. When I came out your way a couple of weeks back, we touched on this new version 3 of PTC. It's sort of dedicated to your dad. Can you take us through a little bit of a the story behind how this has come about?
Yeah, I'll let Paul do that.
Sure.
That's what you did me doing the last one.
Yeah, but then
look, it was actually in V1 where we first found out Dad, he was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. It was particularly nasty, to be honest with you. It was really one of those sort of unique moments in life where you find out, about someone. Obviously we had known our dad for all our lives, but there were certain things about him that sort of we didn't really know. He was very strong, and that's where the strong Ron logo came from. His strength and his courage was, I couldn't have handled it like he handled it. And I personally was with him pretty much most of the way in terms of all the appointments and scans and doctors and, you know, all these different alternative therapy people, and he never complained once about his condition. He had a love for life. He loved to travel. He loved soccer. He loved his family, and you know, that strength and that courage. I just can't think of a better way to dedicate a gym to his memory. You know, so that's really where it's come from, without getting into the real nitty-gritties. But I mean, obviously, many people didn't know him like we knew him. Most of our members probably had never met him. He was a member, an honorary member, I suppose, and he did come to the gym and he did train. And even when he was very sick, I think it was only 3 weeks before he passed, he was in the gym. He was doing laps, walking with a med ball, you know, just trying to keep up his strength, because he knew that if he stopped, you know, the end was near. So yeah, I think it was even 2 weeks out. You know, he was at the back. It was 45 degrees or something. He was doing step ups on a you know, a little step ladder. I mean, we have guys that quit because they hurt their elbow. You're talking about someone who's got a growth in their throat, constricting him. He can't breathe. He can't eat, and he's outside in 45-degree weather doing step ups. I mean,
and with no complaints.
And he didn't complain about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just can't think of a better way to honour that sort of person.
Well, yeah, that's inspiring, because Dan touched on sort of that story when we first met, and just briefly on that. Your father would have been from the baby boomers sort of generation.
Yeah, he was born in '52, but he wasn't born in Australia. He was born in Italy. He came out when he was 5. He came out when he was 5. His dad had already been here. Our grandfather had already been out here for a while. You know, that's what they did. The male went, you know, on the voyage, secured work, you know, started a home, and then the family sort of came out after. And that's pretty common for the immigrants of, you know, the 50s, 60s. But he came out when he was 5. They didn't speak English. You know, they had to learn English. They had to learn about this new way of life, which, you know, our grandfather, our Nor, had already sort of started to set up for them. But yeah, that's sort of, 52 he was born, so yeah. I think it stems from the fact that we saw what our parents went. And, you know, we know what the difficulties were and the challenges they faced. Look, every generation has their own set of challenges. For example, you know, I suppose technology might have been a challenge for, you know, for the next generation or whatever, but different challenges, but they did it hard, man. There's no doubt about that. They did it very hard. They worked, you know, I mean, Dad worked very hard, just as all, you know, all his friends and all other immigrants and etc. did, you know, to supply, you know, to provide for his family. So I suppose maybe we inherited his piece.
So. I would say yes. I would say most definitely.
So,
yeah, I think Paul touched on a good point. We got to see what our parents, what they went through, like in terms of struggling, owning a house, going bad in business, having to sell the house, going to rent for 8 years, I remember emptying my money box to give to my parents when I was 13 to put towards the deposit for the new house. I'd been saving up the whole summer for this money, right? You know, so we saw the struggle. So, man, there's no effing way that I'm gonna put my guard down or wimp out because of minuscule bullshit. You know, when I see what they went through, we don't go through anything like what they went through. You know, so like Paul said, we have people quit the gym for the most ridiculous reasons, and look, and that's fine. And all it comes down to is they just don't have enough heart. You know, like you have to really, really want to do this, and that goes with anything in life. Like if you don't really want, if you're not prepared to trade one dream for another, then you will not succeed.
100%.
You know, you can't be a full-time athlete and then be a successful business person or a successful coach or PT. it just doesn't work that way. Like, you need to dedicate yourself wholly and completely to one particular thing. Otherwise, you just become mediocre at everything. I mean, that's my belief. May disagree, and that's fine. Everyone has entitled to their opinion. Paul and I have literally dedicated ourselves to this for the last 4 years. Like, you can probably see, we have hardly taken any money out of the business. We don't pay ourselves a lot of money. All the money is reinvested back into PTC and to our members. So look, it is what it is. And look, I believe that in the first 4 to 5 years of a business, you need to be reinvesting. So you need to do it hard for a while, and then hopefully after that, you can reap some reward. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't reinvest, you don't grow. So, and that goes with even your personal development. So Paul and I are reinvesting in ourselves by studying. And so I think to be successful, you also need to be willing to challenge yourself mentally and physically, and to expand knowledge. Because at the end of the day, if you're not learning anything, you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're dead. So people who are too arrogant to think that think they know everything, they never get anywhere. So I mean, that's pretty much where we come from. Yeah. Look, on the way, we've had obstacles of our own to challenge. People that don't believe in the things we do and whatever, and we don't really care, to be honest. We just keep doing what we're doing. Too many people these days are focused on what other people think of them or what they're doing. Just don't worry about those people. Just get on with it.
I love that. Thanks very much for sharing that story with us. This is what I like to call the dessert sort of question, in terms of what you guys are, not literally, regarding what you guys have on offer there in terms of your services, products, events coming up. I know you got the is it the Perth Cup? I know you touched on it before.
Yep.
Perth Cup,
Yep.
Which I can't wait for. So you guys, can you just expand on what's on offer at PTC?
Sure. Paul?
No worries. Let's start from the top. Look, most people, when they come in, they're interested in training here, and what that basically means is membership options. Okay, it's a very simple membership system we have in place. There are no startup fees, there are no joining fees or exit fees or any other type of fee. Nothing I can think of anyway.
No.
So I suppose you could say it's fee-free, apart from the fact there is a monthly membership
Fee.
Yeah,
So
anyway.
not really fee-free.
But anyway, it's basically 120 a month, or 30 a week, or 60 every 2 weeks, and we allow people to choose whichever sort of term they want to use. Most people like it to sort of coincide with how they get paid, for example, which is fine. We do casuals here. Just to come in for a one-off is 30, but we do sell packs of 10 for $200 as well. The only catch with that is you can only come when the gym is manned. Okay, so when there's staffing here. And
We have a FIFO membership.
We do actually have a FIFO membership, which is basically half the price, so 60 a month. Okay.
So we do have quite a lot of FIFO members, so Paul and I don't think it's fair they be subject to a full rate when they're not here half the time. So yeah, we've got quite a few guys and girls on FIFO as well. So the FIFO rate is basically 60 a month.
So the memberships are very, in terms of, there's nothing complex about them. You do get full access to the gym, and we do have a sort of 24-hour, 24/7 access for members, but we do have a dickhead policy, and what we mean by that is you don't get it for at least...
Repeat that again, I didn't quite catch that. It's a unique policy.
We have a dickhead policy. If you're a dickhead, you don't get a card.
Look, in saying that, we've never had to say no to anyone.
That's very true.
And I think part of the reason is, like I said before, is we don't really attract those types of people, which is great. They can stay at X-Fitness.
Real talk, man. Real talk.
Yeah. So that's the memberships, and then I suppose next we're talking about services. Sort of one-on-one coaching, group coaching. We have about 5 or 6 personal trainers here, and we've really selected them because of this particular skills they have. For example, CJ, we basically refer all of our Ollie lifting clients to CJ. He's competed nationally and obviously coaches Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting coaches, sports-specific coaches, remedial, ex-phys in Adam, and Amy and Nicole also PT. And also studying exercise and sports science. So, and I think CJ is in his last 6 or 12 months of degree as well. So it's great that all of our PTs are also educating themselves. So all of us basically have one-on-one coaching options, with also package options as well. If you buy 10, you get it for cheaper and so on. You want to talk about the courses, maybe? Courses, programs?
Look, on top of the one-on-one coaching, obviously not everyone can afford to, fork out for one-on-one coaching because it can obviously adds up. There are options in terms of some courses and programs and group training that we do. Paul and I run a powerlifting course, which we have, developed on our own, which is actually quite jam-packed with information. We used to run over 10 weeks. But then we found it was hard to get there every week for the 10 weeks. So we've actually, the last couple we run over a weekend, so we call it a 2-day intensive. So we run over a Saturday and a Sunday. So you only got to commit one weekend. It's actually, to be honest, it works really, really well because it means that you get to gel with everyone really quickly and it's more intense and, it's a bit more fun.
Flowy.
It flows better. There's 10 modules. There's 4 theory modules, which are all done in lecture format. PowerPoint presentation style, and we cover things like the landscape of the sport in Australia, what the sport is, a bit about the history. We go into some rules and regulation type stuff, and we cover anatomy and biomechanics, so the actual anatomy and the biomechanics for the main movements, so that when we go to the practical, they'll have a better understanding of the things, what they should be doing and why, and those sorts of topics. And then Paul does a really, really thorough presentation on training and programming for the sport, which is actually very interesting. And then I follow up at the end with a module on common injuries, injury prevention and rehabilitation. And then the 6 practical modules are all on the floor. So there's 2 modules for squat, 2 for bench and 2 for deadlift. So the great thing about the course here is it's relatively cheap. It's $3.99, so it doesn't really hurt the hip that much, and you get lots of value for money. You get to come and actually experience training at PTC for a bit. You get to use all the equipment. So we have all the equipment for all the major federations. So you get to learn about the equipment. We teach you about the personal equipment as well for the sport. It's quite thorough. It's actually a lot of fun. It's probably the most enjoyable thing I do here, to be honest. It's a lot of fun. We normally get anywhere between 20 and 30 people doing it. And we've had some great feedback. Yeah, it's real good. Our next one is on October. It's early October, October 8 and 9 or something. So we're accepting registrations for that. That's the powerlifting course, and we call it a level 1 course. So we're actually in the process of developing our level 2 course as well. But there'll be more on that later. We do have a barbell basics program. So the barbell basics program is a 12-week program, is designed to really teach people the fundamentals of basic barbell training. So we cover things like diaphragmatic breathing, the hinge movement pattern, the squat pattern, breathing and bracing, pelvic position, all those types of things, how to perform the movements properly. And then obviously over the 12 weeks, we progress them to, obviously heavier weight training. And they also get a 12-week program. That's actually quite a good program. I enjoy that one as well. Obviously, I enjoy all of them. We do also have a ladies program, a ladies 12-week strength program, which is really designed as a nurturing style of program to get women into a gym like ours, where otherwise it might have been a little bit intimidating for them. So they're working with a whole bunch of ladies, with a coach in a group environment, to nurture them through the process of strength training, so that they can get a feel for what it's all about. Also quite a good program. What else is there off the top of my head? Amy, so one of our PTs, runs another ladies style program called Revolutionizing You. There's some information on her athlete page about that. We also run an Olympic lifting course, which CJ is now running for us. He's actually about to finish the last installment of that. It runs for 10 weeks. We're actually going to be modifying it to a 5-week course, and there's going to be more information on that soon. Wow, stretching my head now. That's about it. There are some other things in the pipeline. We do run some classes as well. So we run, Nicole runs our conditioning classes. So there's a Wednesday 5:30 and Saturday 9:30 and 10:30. So a metabolic conditioning style of class. We're thinking about also extending that to Sunday and running a Sunday class, which I know is pretty popular. We're about to start our new PTC fight classes. and Tom Burns, a friend of ours and a good client, is going to be running them. He's a 7 times national kickboxing champion, and really knows his shit. So they're going to be pretty awesome. They're going to be really based, very highly skilled type of coaching, where you're really going to learn how to perform the movements correctly, which is the fundamentals of what we do here. So it kind of fits in with everything. We also run some yoga as well, some yin yoga to balance out our yang and yin. So it's good. I did it last night, and my body hasn't been this sore in ages.
Is that right, eh?
Believe it. I woke up this morning, I felt like I was 80 years old. So it was good. Look, there's lots of stuff happening. There's lots in the pipeline. Look, there's information on our website. If you go to the website, click on services, and there's more links to more information, some course outlines. Look, on top of that, we also run a sport. So I'm the delegate for GPC Australia. So I'm responsible for promoting and running GPC sanctioned events in WA. On top of those sanctioned meets, we also run novice competitions. Now, those novice comps are run in a very similar way to the GPC comps in terms of how we run them. They're just as professional, it's just as rigorous, it's just not sanctioned. So the novice comps are really, again, a nurturing style of competition to introduce people to the sport, get them on the platform and experiencing. The goal for Paul and I is to make sure those people walk away with an absolute killer experience so that they continue to get involved in the sport. So look, apart from the novice comps, there is the GPC sanction meets, which again, I'm responsible for, and obviously Paul now as well. And the next GPC sanction meet will be Perth Cup on the weekend of September 17 and 18. There's about 80 lifters registered. It's the first comp at the new venue, and we've made heaps of changes to the competition platform and area. We reckon it's going to be pretty awesome. So hopefully people will come down and support. There are some other people running powerlifting in the state. You've got Henry Day at Mossopee, who runs some WOPA competitions. And you also have Rob Murrell at Barbarian, who runs PA. So there are a few different fronts for powerlifting, and we're just one of them. And look, at the end of the day, people will choose based on the style of events they want to go in, if they're chasing competition, or they might like a particular rule set for a particular federation. To be honest, Paul and I don't really care where people lift, as long as they're lifting. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the sport needs to grow in unison. And so Paul and I try to, as much as possible, support everyone. It's impossible to go to everything. But for example, you've probably seen me, I'll happily promote other people's events or plug another gym on Facebook. I don't have a problem with supporting other people. So obviously can't do everything, but do what we can, yeah. It's about really growing the sport, because in my opinion, if you come from that abundance mindset, if we all help each other grow the sport, we all grow together. If we all stay in our scarcity mindset, which believe me, a lot of people are, then we don't grow. Like, we don't get anywhere, and you just have all this bullshit politics that ruin it for everyone. So look, it is what it is at the end of the day. Again, you can only just continue doing what you're doing. And to be honest, Paul and I believe we do it pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, yes, you guys have got a really sort of, in terms of what you guys offer, I mean, it's probably, as far as I know, it's probably one of the more sort of comprehensive sort of services available within the fitness industry. I mean, I don't really know any other sort of fitness centre in Perth that offers as much as you guys do, and the depth in which you offer it in. My brief visit out there 2 weeks ago, and when I came in, and prior to that, all I had seen was just what you were posting on Facebook, and I couldn't wait to get in there. And when I eventually did get in there, for me personally, it was like a child walking into Disneyland. It really was. And I mean, I was speaking to Dan, and to be quite honest, I couldn't even really look at Dan when he was talking to me, because I was too busy looking around what you guys had on offer and what you guys had actually created. And I was just thinking, I was in absolute awe. And I was looking around, and I was getting all antsy, just, what do you got? What do you got? Get me outside. I want to see what you got outside. And is this all conditioned? How big is it? How many squares? And for me personally, I was just in absolute awe of what you guys have accomplished out there, what you guys set up, and it's just fantastic for the Perth fitness industry, or even the fitness industry throughout WA and Australia, that you got two fantastic guys really pushing fitness on a real sort of, I suppose, from a real, honest and professional sort of level, which I think is really much needed within the fitness industry. So yeah, from a person, I thought what you guys have created is just phenomenal. And just to wrap things up, it was only originally supposed to be about a 15-minute podcast.
I'm looking at this. I'm
I'm only joking. There's a lot of substance.
People have tuned out by now, so we can say what we want.
No, there's a lot of substance in this one. But what 3 tips would you guys give? And I know you've touched a lot on, what's needed to be successful. But if you could give me sort of 3 sort of more specific tips, what I suppose people who are sort of in the fitness industry, trying to sort of, improve their business, trying to make it blow up, what 3 tips would you give to help them be successful?
We'll give you 3 tips each. How's that? We'll give you. So Paul can go first.
I love this. He gives you the first opportunity, then he takes over and speaks for like the next.
We've probably got the same tips, so he's going to be left with 3 new tips that he perhaps never thought of. The first thing I would definitely say is you need to be happy. Okay, so when Dad passed, one thing I really got out of that, and it was like a gift really, is that I figured out that I was a bit of a robot, and I wasn't really happy with my day job, so I decided unequivocally that I would quit the profession of engineering, and I really wanted to come into the gym and work with Dan full time. And I think it was about 2 years, or just under 2 years after he passed, there was opportunity for me, which was actually just about a year ago now, really, to be honest with you. I quit my job, came here full time, and to be honest with you, I think it was a bit of a turning point as well, because suddenly we went from one person doing lots of work to 2 people doing lots of work, so that's a 100% increase in work. So it was a bit of a turning point for our business. So number 1 would be happiness. The second thing is, I would say you do have to find some sort of balance. You need a balance. So I have a family with 3 kids. And even though sometimes it's really difficult to get that balance, there's times where the demand in the gym is really high. Like for instance, the past 6 to 8 weeks, we've moved into a new facility and we're still, we have to get out of the old one, and we've got all these in Perth Cup and all these things going on. So 6 to 8 weeks have been really hard for me, really hard for my family. But then after, we've landed back on our feet, I need to make good on that as well. I need to spend some time with my family. So balance, I think, is an important one as well. The third one for me is you sort of need to be a little bit tunnel visioned. You need to ignore, I suppose Daniel may touch upon this, you need to ignore those external influences, or the people or the things or whatever that might want to influence what you're doing. Let's call them haters or whatever. I'm not sure, whatever. Yeah. You need to be tunnel vision, ignore them. They are just trying to pull you down. They're trying to bring you to their level. Fight the good fight, keep doing what you're doing. That's it.
Okay, so happy, balanced, and tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision.
Beautiful, man. Love it. Thanks, Dan.
So my 3 would be, you have to 100%, 110% believe in what you're doing. If you don't believe in what you're doing, no one else is going to believe. And to add to that, you have to get to the point, like I said before, where you have to be willing to trade one dream for another. So whatever that may be. So you have to be able to grind shit out. I remember sitting at V1 when I first quit my job. I walked out on my boss because he was pissing me off. I just had enough. It was his boss as well at the time, so it was kind of funny.
Funny for you. Maybe.
Yeah, it was funny for a little bit until I started running out of money.
Yes.
And it wasn't funny anymore.
Yeah.
And I've done that a few times now. We can talk about that later in the next podcast.
Yeah.
Dan ran out of money a few times. I remember sitting over there at V1 at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. My phone wasn't ringing. I wasn't getting any private messages. No one was walking through the door. It was cold. I didn't have an office. It was empty. And I remember I said to myself, if I sit here, nothing's going to change. So I started just doing shit that I probably wouldn't normally do, you know. So I had a BMX at the time. I printed some flyers and I went to a local suburb and I did a flyer drop by myself, and it was the most boring thing in the world. I didn't actually get one phone call from it. But my point is, unless you can't receive without giving, you know. You got to give to get in this world, you know. So the more you help people, or the more you put yourself out there, the more you're going to get back. And so that's probably my first one. I don't know how you're going to one-liner that one, but that's the first one. The second one would be to continue challenging yourself. And by that I mean do things you wouldn't normally do. And that could be getting new clients or educating yourself or whatever it might be in your own training or your own personal life. If you don't push the limit, if you don't push the boundary of where your comfort zone is, you will never grow. So Paul and I are back at uni this year, way outside of our comfort zone in terms of time. Our time is stretched quite thin, so doing a degree and doing all this at the same time is, to be honest, I'm starting to lose my shit. But everything's manageable.
Think about it, it's exactly like training.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, I guess if you were to one line of that one, you know, you need to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. And the third one, and to be honest, this is the one you've probably heard me preach about this a few times on Facebook, because this is the one that completely annoys me the most about people, and that is you need to have an abundance mindset. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to think that there's enough business for yourself and for everyone else out there. The moment I hear someone say, I can't do that because there's not enough people with money or whatever it might be, they're automatically putting themselves in a frame of mind where they're not going to get any clients. And people have this mindset, and this scarcity mindset in business or their life, and they start to think that there's not enough. You know, there's not enough people out there there's not enough money, there's not enough whatever. And you see this all the time, even in other businesses where they do stupid shit like, you know, they won't even like a competitor's post, or, you know, just dumb shit like that. They won't support other people because they're competition, you know what I mean? To me, that's a scarcity mindset, and as long as you're in that scarcity mindset, you will never reach your potential, you know. So by having an abundance mindset, it means that Paul and I are able to support other people where we can, without worrying that we're going to lose clients or whatever. Because to me, that just doesn't make any sense. Because again, if you go back to, if you believe in what you do, then other people will believe in you as well. You know, for me, that's a big one. So if you search on YouTube or on the Google machine, abundance mindset, a ton of articles and videos will come up on this exact topic. And there's heaps of, I think I've posted a few as well. There was a book that I read. I can't remember what the name of it now was. I've done it again. I can't remember.
Who was it by, Dan?
I'll be honest, I can't remember. But I did read a book called, I've just given it to Heidi to read. She read it. Oh, wow. It was a book based on consumerism. And it was about finding that place of happiness.
Yeah.
And the analogy they used was, you know, you can be in the woods, cold, with no clothes on, and someone invites you into their cabin and they give you a blanket, they put you in front of the fireplace and they give you a bowl of soup. And you go from being miserable to real happy with very little stuff, with three simple things. And people have this notion that if this much stuff brings you this much happiness, and then you add a little bit more and you get the same happiness. And so we have this, you know, this compounding effect where happiness is not linear. Like, you don't just add another blanket, another bowl of soup and another fireplace and you double your happiness. It doesn't work that way. I'm really struggling to remember the name of the book because I recommend everyone read it. Heidi's going to kick my ass later.
Maybe Danny can put it in the description.
Yeah, I recommend reading this book. It actually really changed the way I think about life. I also watched a documentary called...
Just on that note, I'll put in the podcast, just ask Heidi if you want to know the name. Because Dan's read it, but...
Oh, man. I could normally just ban this book's name.
Murphy's Law, yeah.
I also watched a documentary called I Am, which was actually... he talks about abundance mindset, and some of these principles of happiness come up. So, yeah, the third one for me is having an abundance mentality.
Well, okay, let me summarize this. Okay, so give 110%.
Well, you know, if you
What you give, you get in return.
the universe works in mysterious ways, right?
2, you got to be prepared to be uncomfortable.
Correct.
So, be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The principle of overload.
What was that, Paul?
The basic principle of overload.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
get better unless you overload.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Progression. And thirdly, adopt the mind of abundance.
Abundance mentality.
Abundance mentality.
Yeah.
Boys, well, like I said, it's been a fantastic podcast, and I've really enjoyed.
Oh. We're going for almost an hour.
This is your record. I'm going to probably have to put this into about a 10-part series. But boys, I really appreciate you guys coming on. And like I said, the story and the journey was intriguing, both personally, and I know a lot of viewers of this podcast as well will find this intriguing as well. So once again, I appreciate you guys coming on.